It's late. The house makes small sounds when it settles. The refrigerator hums, a faint clicking in the walls. The kind of quiet that feels almost alive if you sit with it long enough. I used to fill this hour with work. Screens glowing in dark rooms, diagrams, messages, decisions waiting to be made. There was always something urgent enough to outrun whatever was quieter underneath. Tonight, I let it be quiet. I've been thinking about how strange it is that the world can look at a person and build a monument out of outlines, angles, headlines, sharp edges that photograph well. But you never looked at me that way. You saw the way I folded into myself when I was tired, the way I'd stare at a problem long after everyone else had left. Not because I had to, but because I didn't know how to stop thinking. You noticed the silence between my sentences, the hesitation I tried to hide by speaking faster. You saw the man who forgets to eat when he's focused, the one who stands in the kitchen at 2 a.m. barefoot, holding a glass of water, not entirely sure what he came in there for. You saw the parts that didn't scale. I didn't understand how rare that was. When we first met, I think I mistook your calm for something temporary. I thought eventually you'd be pulled into the current, into the velocity of everything, the schedules, the expectations, the constant sense that if I slowed down, something would collapse. But you didn't get swept up. You stayed steady. You would sit across from me at the small wooden table, legs tucked under you, listening, not to the achievements, not to the noise. You listened to the pauses. You would ask questions that had nothing to do with performance. Are you tired? Not as an accusation, not even as concern. Just a fact. I'd brush it off. I was always brushing things off back then. Fatigue, doubt, the subtle ache of missing something I couldn't name. You didn't argue. You just reached for my hand. Sometimes that was the entire conversation. I used to think love had to be intense to be real, that it needed friction, momentum, something dramatic enough to match the rest of my life. But with you, it was ordinary. We'd walk without speaking. You'd point out things I would have never noticed on my own. The way light caught on a window, the uneven rhythm of someone playing piano in an apartment above us, the smell of rain before it started. You lived in details. I lived in outcomes. I lived in outcomes. It took losing you to understand the difference. There were nights you'd fall asleep before I came to bed. I'd stand there for a moment, watching your breathing even out. The room dim, your hair across the pillow, and I'd feel something that didn't have a name yet. Not pride, not desire, relief. Relief that somewhere in my life something was soft. I didn't say that out loud. I don't think I said enough things out loud. I told you about plans, about timelines, about problems I was trying to solve. I didn't tell you when I felt afraid of failing the people who believed in me. I didn't tell you how heavy it felt to be seen as certain when I wasn't. You once asked me what it was like to carry so much. I made a joke. You didn't laugh. You just said, "You don't have to carry it alone all the time." I nodded, but I didn't let you help. That's the part I see clearly now. I thought protecting you meant keeping you away from the weight. I didn't realize that shutting you out was its own kind of burden. For you, you never asked for the myth. You never wanted the polished version. You wanted the unedited one, the one who doubts, the one who doesn't know the answer, the one who is scared of being ordinary and exhausted by being exceptional at the same time. I didn't know how to be both with someone. After you left, the house felt louder, not because anything changed physically. The same floors, the same walls, the same routines, but the air was different. I noticed how often I reached for my phone to send you something small, a photo of a crooked stack of books, a message about how the sky looked strange that evening, and then I'd stop. There was no emergency, no dramatic ending, just a slow realization that we were standing in different seasons of ourselves. You needed presence. I offered intensity. You needed honesty. I wasn't wrapped in strategy. I gave you reassurance packaged like a plan. It's strange what you understand only in absence. I understand now that love isn't impressed by scale. It doesn't care how many problems you can solve before breakfast. It cares whether you sit down and stay. You used to sit on the floor sometimes, back against the couch, reading. I'd step over you distracted, mind somewhere else, and you'd reach up absent-mindedly, just to touch my wrist as I passed. It was such a small gesture. I miss that more than anything dramatic. There's a temptation after something ends to rewrite it, to turn it into a lesson with clean edges, to make yourself either the villain or the misunderstood hero. I don't feel either. I feel grateful. Grateful that you saw me when I didn't know how to be seen. Grateful that you asked questions I wasn't ready to answer yet. Grateful that you didn't try to compete with the world around me. You just quietly offered something different. I've changed since then, not in the ways that show up in headlines or announcements, Those changes are visible, they're measurable. This one isn't. I've learned to pause before filling silence. To say, I don't know, without following it with a solution. To notice when someone is reaching for my hand and not mistake it for distraction. There are still nights like this, quiet, the room dim, the work waiting on the desk in the other room. But I don't rush toward it the way I used to. Sometimes I sit here and let myself remember you as you were. Not idealized, not frozen in time, just human, the way you would lean against the doorway and watch me think. The way you would tilt your head slightly when you knew I was deflecting. The softness in your voice when you told me you loved me, as if it wasn't a performance, as if it didn't need to echo. I used to believe that impact was everything. That if you could move the world, the rest would fall into place. You taught me that moving one person gently might matter more. We weren't perfect. I was distracted. You were patient longer than you should have been. There were conversations we postponed until postponing became its own answer. I don't replay them to punish myself anymore. I replay them to understand. You once told me that being seen is a risk. I didn't get it then. I thought being seen was inevitable. Now I know there's a difference between being watched and being known. You knew me. And in knowing me, you asked me to slow down. I couldn't then. I can now, not because the world is quieter, but because I am. If you saw me today, I think you would notice it immediately. The way my shoulders rest differently. The way I listen a little longer before speaking. The way I let a moment exist without trying to optimize it. You wouldn't say anything, dramatic about it. You'd probably just smile slightly, like you used to, as if to say, there you are. I don't wish to undo what happened. We were who we were. At that time, I was still learning how to live inside my own life without turning everything into a mission. You were already there. I hope you found someone who sits down beside you without glancing at the clock, someone who answers your questions without turning them into equations. And I hope you know that what you gave me didn't disappear when you walked away. It stayed. In the pauses, in the quiet rooms, in the way I reach for a glass of water at 2 a.m. and actually remember why I'm there. It's still late. The house is still making small sounds. And for once, I'm not trying to outrun them. I'm just here, breathing, letting the silence be enough.